Alright, hello everybody and welcome to part 3. I think I have decided to make these 3 episodes from today into its own playlist because we're really getting some solid ground here. So, to kind of catch up for anybody that's just joining us, this is a world of Minecraft that I built with a lot of cool stuff. You can go check out the other playlists to see, like, I don't know. I don't think I actually, like, recorded a lot of creating. I did a lot of, like, hey, look at that, now I've got this, finger-pointing looking beehive. So, anyways, what we've been doing... Actually, hold on. Is talking about the two taboos. Maybe we'll call it that. I don't know. Religion and politics, the two control structures that it's improper to talk about in polite company. And it starts fights, it starts arguments. There's a lot of emotion tied to it. There's a lot of shortcuts in the logic tied to it too. So it's yeah, it's interesting. All right, now let's go ahead and build a section with this stuff. Build a couple pads. And a couple single ones. Okay, now let's get some of the... Yes! There's that. Nice. Okay, so I've got those. Oops. Let's plant a couple there, plant a couple there. And they actually will grow on their own. Ooh, we got some vines going too? Let's see. Ooh, I wonder if I could put these underwater. Oh, that'd be so sick. Actually, let's just go ahead and grow that. Oh, that's the wrong one. Whoops. It's okay. I can get a lot of this. So anyways, back to the actual story. Let's go try this underwater and see if we can do that. There's one, we can even put these underwater and have like red and that green like coloration. We can add that to the coral. Oh, it's gonna look so cool. We're gonna start making our underwater areas looking so sick in this world. Um, while also increasing the biodiversity. I'm just kidding, it's just a game, don't think too much into it. But by building up corals like this in the real world, we would actually be building up the biodiversity. So, anyways, let's go over here a little bit. We'll go test this out. We'll act like it's its own thing. Oh no, you cannot plant it. Let's see if it's... Can anything grow on it under here? No, you cannot bone meal it. Okay, no biggie. So now we know. In fact, we'll leave that there. Okay. Cool. So anyways, back to the two taboos. While I harvest some of these sea pickles or cucumbers or whatever, I constantly forget. Pickles. Alright, cool. Then we'll go... Okay. Alright, so the two taboos, religion and politics. So with Mary Magdalene being... Well, really, it's just those few things. You just need to understand that, you know, through no real fault of the average person. Like, I mean, that's the other thing to remember. Like, people aren't out there nefariously, like, intentionally trying to do these things. It's just how they happen. So, like, this gospel by a woman that followed Jesus was removed and hidden and ordered destroyed. And, yeah. And then I just had someone comment on something that I posted talking about the... Something of Nicaea, the meeting of Nicaea, or the... I just had it. I was just reading the wiki about it. But in Wikipedia, it's a great source for a jumping off point. Like, if you're going to really, like, bring that into debate, you should start looking at the articles that support it and kind of, like, at least familiarizing yourself with that. Because, and that's really the same with everything. Like, Wikipedia is just that. It's like a table of contents for a bunch of ideas that are out there. Now, whether they're true or not, we don't know. In fact, do not trust Wikipedia just outright, like everything on there. Now, it's a great source, and people are encouraged to correct it. And like, if there's bad information on there, like the people are supposed to come together and be like, "Hey, no, that's not actually what happened." So, go ahead and put some of these back in there. I mean, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, like what we're doing here. Like, we use the bone meal. Bone meal is really easy. We have a bunch of plants that I can just convert into it. And in a way, this does kind of mimic real life. If we made aquaponics, which is like a system of growing food using fish waste as the nutrients and the nitrates, the phosphates, the food for the plants, you basically have a cycle. Now, Asian cultures have been doing this with rice for a long time. Like, the fish help the rice grow, and the rice help the fish grow. They can feed it. I don't know if the fish actually eat the rice, to be honest, but like there are ways where you can make it into like a self-containing ecosystem, and then you can exploit that by both eating the fish and the food produced, but at the same time growing and harvesting them in a controlled environment. Now, these systems, how much does it cost? I don't know, but we're going to be looking into that. Let's see. Let's do some more enchanting. Actually, no, let's get some more bone meal because we need some of that. Let's go ahead and leave all this stuff up here. We should have our own chest for this farming area, but this will work. Flotsam. Okay. Let's put all this nether stuff up here. Oh, and I guess we did still have some of that. And there we go. We now have nether tree farms. We just need a bunch more of those mushrooms, but we can get them by using bone meal. So let's go get bone meal. And we'll keep talking about this. So, and basically that was my problem with religion growing up and why I was just kind of disgusted by it. And I kind of get turned off by like, or not turned off like it's a sexual thing, but just like turned away. It's not fun. How do I say that? Like, it's a deterrent. There you go. It's a deterrent to religion because it's just so anti-woman. Like, and that's the best way to put it. Women have very little say, and it's just been gone and like agreed upon over the centuries and millennia that women are not equal to men, and that's horrible. Now, granted, there are things that one sex is better than the other, and I have to say sex now because genders and that whole thing. It's not as like gender fluidity and all that. I don't understand a lot of it, and I don't claim to, but at the same time, I think it's not as simple as a lot of people do. And we're not going to discuss that, right? At least not yet, not in this one, because I've had kind of bad discussions with my family for not being sensitive enough for that. Even though I'm a bleeding heart liberal, Democrat, libtard, whatever, like, I've been called quite a few things, like, but I'm not libtarded enough to be, not that I'm not, it's just that I go with the South Park logic. I feel like there should be in fact, okay, I guess we are talking about the pronoun. For transitioning gender, I think to actually qualify to use the other bathroom, like the women's bathroom if you were born a man, or the men's bathroom if you were born a woman, I believe you have to be granted official documentation that you are now the other gender. That's it. I think it has to be controlled and regulated because, as it is, and understandably so, we have people using the other bathrooms, and there's been reports, not a lot, mind you, I haven't heard a lot of this, and usually I'd have to check it to see if it's actually like a real authentic thing, because I've only heard about it as a concern when talking with people that generally vote Republican or non-Democrat. They could be libertarians, or they could be the in-betweens that don't even want to vote for Democrat, which, I mean, and for me, we just need to keep the Democrats under a microscope too. We need to be talking, we need to be communicating in like open dialogue about why are they doing these sketchy things and how dangerous is this? Like, what's the significance of this? Because as is, I've listened to some of these people's rants that don't like, even Biden and like all the money that they got laundering money through Ukraine. Okay, but here's the thing. Even laundered money has to go back into their pockets somehow. It's a traceable income of some kind that they get, so it's easily prosecutable if there's any kind of money laundering happening with that. And I'll explain how I think that way. It's still my opinion. I don't have like anything to go off of except for that. Hold on here. We're gonna unravel a bunch of that. Okay, I've looked into Biden's wealth. He's worth $8 million, is what I heard, or he got $8 million from a book, basically. And he wrote a book. I believe that. Book sales get a lot of money. Now, he also has a lot of money from being in government for decades, several years, and that's unfair too. We need to adjust that. My suggestion is to make it minimum wage and make it a service job. Like, if you drop it to that, then that fixes a lot of things. Like people will stop taking shortcuts to trick people, to scare people, to use fear or coercion to shape the government. That's the definition of terrorism, by the way, is to use fear or violence or threats of fear or violence or threats of violence to for political gain, for political reasons. That is our government, our politics. Not our government, sorry, our politics. That's all we do. Every election season, get a bunch of people angry at a bunch of other people, all because both sides want to lie and stretch the truth and all this. Democrats do it too. They don't get a free pass. Now they do it a lot less because a lot of the people that tend to vote more Democrat are more sticklers for actually, that's what my son does. I'm trying to convince him not to do it too much because I don't want him like mocking people, but at the same time, the Debbie detail, like that character of this cartoon that I'm working on. You got general gist and you got Debbie detail. So when you're coming across a concept, and we could change those up. The general could be a lady, and the Debbie it could be Donald detail. I don't care. In fact, we could do mirrored comics to make it to show that it really doesn't matter. In fact, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should make a lady general. Now, granted, women are not that involved in the military yet. They are. They're definitely in the military, but they're not draftable. I mean, and that's some of the argument that I've had people argue with me on the X app, is until women are drafted, then they shouldn't even be able to vote. And I've had multiple people tell me that, and that's ridiculous. I didn't even think that was on the table. But women voting is a possible drawback of um, of I don't think it'd really get that far. But we just had abortion overturned. Like, I didn't think that would happen either. So I wouldn't put it against them. But now we have the Mary Magdalene thing and all this. And the convention or the meeting of Nicaea, or whatever that is, it was a meeting of a bunch of religious, I think, bishops that represented certain areas. And they were basically, it was a consensus on, they were saying, they were trying to agree, oh, hold on. They were trying to come to a consensus of what they were going to follow based on how they were interpreting what was written. So I guess the main points about that is it wasn't like they were writing a new Bible. They were still using what was written, what they had in text. They were trying to see how to interpret it because they were even having disagreements and, and all of that stuff. So, and these are life and death things and eternity, supposedly, if you ascribe to that. Oh, I never really said, I think in the last episode I was talking about what I think it is. I think existence could either be like the Roy video game, like on Rick and Morty, where it's basically like somebody, it could be anything, it could be someone's pet project in college. And I don't know who created that creator, but we could literally be a computer program sitting somewhere and every little thing can be simulated. The blood, the organs, like the biology, the DNA, like, because once you've designed it, you can replicate it, at least in computer science. Like once you've worked hard enough, so say you made the DNA of a chicken. Okay, you've actually created something that makes a chicken. Sounds to me like you created a video game that has a bunch of written rules that are passed into each one of the cells, contained in each one of the cells. So there's always a blueprint for what should be going on, and then you grow into a chicken given enough nutrients and stuff. Now there's conditions that need to be met, which same with computer programs. There are conditions that need to be met for the computer, for the program to run, for it to function as expected, or it's considered a bug or a flaw or a feature in some cases. I'm just kidding. It's a bug or a flaw in a program when it doesn't function as expected. And that's that's like computer science in a nutshell. You write code, you figure out why it doesn't work. You write more code. If it works, cool, you're done. If it doesn't work, you figure out why it doesn't work, and even in fixing one thing, you could easily break other things, and then it's like a game of whack-a-mole, like, and you got no one to blame but yourself, and really your lack of experience too. And as you do more of it, you bang your head against the wall more often. Like you start to think about things like, aha, I've fallen for this before, and I'm not going to do it this time. And I had a lot of the same bugs that everybody does. Misspelled variable names, index errors when writing in Java is writing in any language, you need to be careful about how much room your program is going to take. Like, how much memory is it going to run? And thankfully, you don't have to like micromanage it unless you're really getting into the nitty gritty with C and C++, which I never really did a lot of. So, and especially, and then when I got out of school and I was in the real world, I coded in Visual Basic, and I didn't even write a lot of code. I was more maintaining code, and actually, not even really that. I was more answering questions that were not related to the code at all. I'm just kidding. My first job out of college was fun, but it was also terrible for those reasons because I thought I was going to be writing code or fixing code or doing anything, working with the code, when really I was eventually going to do that. But what they needed initially was they needed IT. That's it. They needed IT. And they told me I was going to be a developer, which is fine. I work in IT now. I love it. But back then, I wanted to be the next Zuckerberg, and those dreams went crashing pretty quickly. And I'm glad that people are actually like saying that more so in school now. It's like, just be prepared that what you're probably going to do. Now, ChatGPT can pretty much do it now too, which is kind of bittersweet. I mean, we're not there yet. You still need people that can understand code to look at what ChatGPT generates, and then you also got to pay for that service, and they keep that, or maybe they purposely give you faulty answers. So then by the time that you spend trying to debug a ChatGPT script or program versus how much you would spend someone that went to school for it, and then you can also lower like your salary expectations by making education more affordable, lowering the bar and the standards of what you need for a developer for your organization, and understanding what that entails. Like you're probably going to get bronze, not silver, not gold of their class, but bronze. And that's fine. If we can get everybody performing at a bronze in just about everything, we're doing pretty good. Now, of course, yeah, silver and gold, and we learn about that, but that's the other thing too, is like, ugh, it's so boring anymore. Like, the United States just wins the Olympics, cleans house every single time. It's not even close. It's just like, oh, there's America, won the Olympics again. They've got the best athletes in the world. And one of the best athletes, the most decorated Olympian, he uses cannabis. Huh, Michael Phelps smokes weed. And I love that because he has more Olympic gold medals than anyone else in history, living or not. And he is recorded as using the devil's lettuce. So, and I think honestly, once the world legalizes weed, or at least decriminalizes it, stops arresting people for it, and understand, because really, if you're going to do that, you might as well arrest everybody for alcohol too, which is what some Middle East countries like Saudi Arabia still do, and they're working on that. Their diplomats are allowed to drink when they go out and about and go abroad. And I'm waiting for them. They probably already came to Colorado. In fact, oh, well, sorry. Two things there. I have a buddy that has a family member that I'm not hosting. I originally said I would, but then I'm like, I had to walk it back because no, I can't. Not for that long, too. But we're working on alternatives, like how to strengthen. Oh, hold on. How to strengthen Saudis coming here and studying and learning. There, sorry. I am going to teach this guy. I'm going to teach, well, kid. I mean, guy, legally, I guess, but not really legally for our, you know, can't go to the bars. So, and that's really like what, like, you finally made it to adult, which is actually kind of bad. And I think we only did that because it's too hard to trust people with drinking legally. Now, granted, that aside, it makes it the forbidden fruit, and like a bunch of high school kids, especially up in the mountains, like they're gonna go out and they're gonna drink, they're gonna experiment, they're gonna do all these things. Like, especially if they're bored, they don't have things to occupy their time. The devil, or idle time, is the devil's plaything, I think is the saying. And even if you don't believe in God or a devil or anything, idle time is dangerous because then, I mean, not saying that we have to be busy and concentrated every second of every day, but we have to have goals. We have to have something to work towards, like a purpose, a job, like, you know, things to do. Some people, I mean, it's horrible. Like, I hate when I'm in between jobs. Hopefully, I don't, feel like that, or I don't have that happen for a long time, but it could. COVID taught a lot of people. Layoffs can happen, so. Or firings too. Like, say you're not really in like a good place at that point, and your work starts to suffer, you could get fired. Let's see. Actually, you know what? We should build a whole other whole other layer of farm. Okay. So, let's see, where did I put? I know I have a bunch of dirt over there in the temple. Oh, and sorry, so this is going to be its own playlist. I made this giant temple as kind of like a memorial or an ofrenda in Hispanic culture or some culture, where like Dia de los Muertos is where they honor their family with an altar of all the things that that dead person or the deceased liked when they were living. It's a sign of respect to the people that are no longer with us. And that's kind of what this is. So, yeah, and in fact, if you see really far up there, which I don't think you can see from here, I can't, and actually they might be blocked, there are plaques with my dad's initials, who's passed on, my friend's dad's initials, my kids' grandparents, which would have been my dad-in-law's initials, all on that post up there. Just kind of seeing all this stuff that I'm doing, like, I don't know. I honestly don't know if there's a life after this. If we believe the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's tons of stuff. But if we believe them as actual truth, and not so much Aesop's fables, were more like comic books or fiction novels, or but still really good guides. Like the Poor Richard's Almanac was a good guide, but it wasn't complete. It was just complete as much as Ben Franklin knew at the time. And so, for those that don't know, for my international viewers, Benjamin Franklin was one of our founding fathers and original politicians of America. He was brilliant. He was smart. He was, I'm pretty sure, religious too. Like a lot of the founding fathers were a bunch of white men that started this country, and a lot of them were Christian or Catholic or whatever. They believed in Jesus and like the Bible, but they wanted to keep government separate. In fact, there is documented, like there's letters saying that government and church should be separated. Um, and that's part of why we rebelled from mainland England, because we were just a bunch of colonies. Like many of England's colonies, we broke off and we said, no, enough's enough. And we fought back and we took this land, much like India. There was, and I don't know a lot about that, but I remember seeing a Monty Python, I believe, when there was talking about India, like more of their history, because England colonized India too and tried to like do all that stuff there, which is human nature. People try to do it. Germany started doing it too, but like England was originally doing it, and and they said enough is enough, and they fought back. And then the Native Americans even fought against us, saying, "Hey, what are you doing? This is our area. Don't come in here messing with us, and trying to tell us how to live." So, and I think the way we fix it all, and that's the whole crux of all these musings and all these videos that I do, is once we reach a general understanding, and it is the globalist agenda, but once we reach a general understanding that people are people, no matter what they look like or what they do, or like, I mean, within reason, you can't just go out killing a bunch of people or breaking a bunch of laws, but we all say that killing is bad. We all say that stealing is bad. Like every single country, every single human being on earth agrees that stealing and killing are bad. Now, how bad? That's debatable. I mean, especially given circumstances, like, in a war, and that's what I've argued with some people before. Like, this one guy was ex-military, and I hate that. Like, I hate accusing military of being murderers, but at the end of the day, like, the way that they try to split hairs on murder versus breaking the Ten Commandments, and I do remember that when I was headed out, I mean, not that I ever amounted to much. I was actually recruit entry separated from the military, from the Marines, for military intelligence, and asked to come back in a year because I had things in my system that I shouldn't have had, illegal things. And so, yeah. But all that entails is all that to say that I was handed a Bible, a little orange like pocket Bible the size of a deck of cards. I was handed a Bible by somebody at the Marine like recruiting area, or like you go to this Marine building down in Denver, and then you like spend the night there, get on a plane with your buddy or whatever. I had a buddy from my high school that I feel really bad because I abandoned him basically, not by choice. I mean, I wanted to be there, definitely really well. I mean, actually, once I got a taste for boot camp, I was like, man, maybe I made a mistake. Couldn't smoke cigarettes, couldn't drink, couldn't smoke bud, like all this stuff. I was like, man, how long do I gotta do this? And I got this guy yelling at me. Anyways, no disrespect to the people that did serve, like my dad and my grandfather and a bunch of my uncles and cousins, and it's not that I don't know military. I support military. I support the end of military too, to where we have world peace. Well, you can't get world peace if you have all these divisive politics like Trump. Trump sucks. Sorry. That's going to upset some people. And actually, I guess we're doing it. We're doing it on the Facebook. We're doing it on social media. I was talking to one of my buddies. He's a huge Trump supporter and a Christian. He's a born again Christian, former drug addict. And I hate saying that because I feel like we're all drug addicts if we all tried addictive drugs. Like, but he dabbled, he tried, and he was addicted to some pretty nasty stuff. Now, you could even argue that if God existed, in even not even just in the Jesus sense, like if God exists in the Judean, like the Islamic and the Christian, like there's a God up there floating around, kind of up in heaven somewhere. Because like all the main, and even Hindu, there's sky people, like the sky wars and stuff, or life above our existence here on Earth. Anyways, aliens maybe. But the idea, where was I going with all that? Jeez, now I can't remember. But the point is, all of them agree that whatever or whoever created us wouldn't like a few things, specifically killing or stealing. Okay, I think that's the big crux of what we were doing because you're basically taking shortcuts against other people that aren't yours to take. They're not, you don't have permission, and that's not right. And if you keep doing that and nobody checks you, then you're going to be inclined to keep doing it, like tax evasion or tax cheating, and even taxes. We shouldn't have taxes so much to the point that they are, but at the same time, we wouldn't need taxes the way they are if everybody followed their religious. Well, not everybody. I can't speak to Islam or Judaism, or I think Judaism. There is actually no. I know there is. There's a sense of community funding. So you need to fund charity in Judaism. In fact, they have a special name for it. It's a device or a box that some Jewish families had in their house. I was just reading about this, and I don't know how I see. I don't have a lot of Jewish friends, and my high school sweetheart was half Jewish, and she could tell me, but she blocked me on a lot of things, so we don't talk. Anyways, I hope she hears this one day and be like, "Oh, Alex," like, and not like, "Ugh." She won't. I'm just kidding. Hey, how you doing? I'm not gonna say your name, but anyways. No, my point is they had a box for community, communion, or for charity, and the communion plate, even in Christianity, or sorry, that's what it was for. It was charity. Okay, I got that clarified. Now I don't know what constitutes as charity, but even in Christianity, you're supposed to give 10% of your earnings back to the land. That's a 10% tax on everything that's good to you. Now, not everything. Like, I mean, I think that's still just income. Like, I really hate that there's a story in the Bible about selling your daughter off to slavery and prostitution to pay debts. There's a donkey show in there. There's some really wild stuff in the Bible, and that's why growing up, a lot of the people that I talked to were like, "Yeah, don't focus on that." Like, there's Old Testament, New Testament. Old Testament is pretty generally accepted as like just being a little bat crazy, like, and then the New Testament, all that. Aside from being extremely boring, I mean, I take the generally the Homer Simpson approach to religion. Is when I was in church, I was waiting for it to be done. I had all these video games to go play, and like my weekend, I got 5 days. I'm sitting in class, like learning and doing work, and then but now I got work on the weekend. What is this? It was ridiculous. Now it's going the other way, which is really exciting. Now we're going to work being more fun, like, and the working conditions, like remote work. I mean, granted, you still have to get things done. You still have to respond to people. You still have to meet deadlines. You have to do all of these things, but you don't have to commute every day, which, and people don't understand, even people that do it, like, until you stop doing it, you don't realize. And I used to drive an hour each way to build wind turbine blades on the graveyard shifts, so 12-hour shifts through the middle of the night, cracked out on Adderall, building wind turbine blades. And I was good. I was so good. And I wasn't cracked out all the time. I mean, like, most of the time when I was getting my sleep as directed, as my doctor advised, I was fine. I was, not only was I fully functional, I was focused, I was trusted to be on the first aid, first response team, I was a crane operator, I was doing all these things. I was a process instructor, like, I was a very trusted, you don't get more trusted than that, except for if you're a lead, like a shift manager, and then if you become a supervisor, which I was on my way to doing that even, and could always go back to that too. So, they did say that, the door is open to come back if I want. Let's see. And actually, one of my favorite supervisors did exactly that. he left. There was some squabbles, some power struggle, whatever. Then he came back and was one of the best supervisors there. And supervisor was like head boss of like 50 people. So, anyways, I digress. And even in there was an magazine. Oh, well, that's the end of this one, but I'll finish that thought real quick. So there was a magazine in the waiting room, like I was waiting to get my interview, and I was reading through it, and it was an alternative energy magazine, something I don't even know what. There was an article from Donald Trump in there about the importance of offshore wind farms for America's energy economy. Right? Okay. Now the whole time during COVID, we were essential workers, and what that means is, um, oh no, not you, is that even during COVID, like most people were locked down or even lost their jobs, entire industries disappeared. But for the energy sector, people building wind turbine blades, we were still expected to go to work. I mean, allowed, really. Like, oh, good gracious, you're allowed to, which is good. I mean, we didn't have to file for a bunch of the COVID relief or like the PPP loans, which were meant to keep people on the payroll. In fact, yeah, so all this bad stuff. But there was an article in there with quotes from Trump in favor for offshore wind farms. That's windmills. I've seen a lot of them saying that windmills give you cancer. Windmills kill birds, which is a common misconception. They kill a fraction of the birds that a common house cat kills. And I know, I had cats growing up. They killed a lot of birds. So you maybe get one bird hit, like 1 out of 100 of bird deaths is a windmill. No, just kidding. It's wind turbine because turbines generate power. Windmills don't. So that's the first thing. And you get talked to over there at any manufacturing company that builds wind turbine blades or just wind turbines. They'll chastise you for that. Anyways, that's the whole thing. But politics. It's divisive. It exaggerates. Oh, I'll leave you with this thought too. COVID, the vaccines, Trump hugely supported the vaccines. I can't find it now, but there was a montage of all the times that Trump said to get a vaccine. He was booed at an Alabama rally. They might actually be trying to suppress those videos now and it said, go get the vaccine. He had his vaccine. He's on record saying, yes, go get your vaccine. So, yeah, right there. Um, and most of Trump's voters don't get the vaccine or don't trust it. And even though the person that they're voting for, their leader, the one that they're voting to represent them, says to do it, they're rebelling even against that. And he's supposed to be draining the swamp, getting rid of the corruption. There's all these conspiracy theorists like prosecute Fauci, all this anger against Fauci and all this. And a lot of people think, oh, it's because of the vaccines. No, it's because of like losing jobs and businesses going under. But then they're blaming Fauci directly for all that, even though it was Trump and Fauci. And and it was Trump's advisor, his medical advisor. So I don't know. He fired a lot of people, but he never fired Fauci. That's all I'm saying right there. But anyways, and so I used to send that link to people that were anti-vaccine and anti-Democrat, and I'm like, okay, but hey, are you anti-Trump here? Looks like you are. And then they kind of like, it's shock to people. And I try not to be mean to people like that too. Like if I say something backhanded like that, or like basically a slap in the face, I'll quickly back it up with like some niceness, like a criticism sandwich, like something criticizing, then something nice, and then something criticizing again. Or I think it goes the other way. You're supposed to say something nice, criticism, and then something nice. But even that, just following the formula doesn't always work. And Viva La Dirt League does some pretty funny videos with that. So anyways, that's good for episode 3 of the 2 Taboos. I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta.